So I kind of shook her up a little bit with that telephone call, and 2 days later, she had a little baby boy named Kai. It's my little brother.
Your little brother.
Yeah.
And you met her. You went out there. She came.
Yeah, first,
First, tell me how your parents reacted to this connection.
well, I made sure that they were comfy with everything before the search. And then this
Right.
all happened. Wow, they're still together, and there's a little boy. I called my mom. She was driving. I told her to pull over, and I told her the whole situation. And I was more afraid then, just because it was so unexpected. It's like, wow, I thought maybe I'd find this woman, and that's what we were expecting. But this other family, I found. So I was worried about them. But
Right.
once they came and they visited us, and we met Kai, and we met Trina, and we met Tommy, my birth parents, and we saw how cool they were, and we saw that they were actually really sweet, kind, caring people with
How
an
do-
understanding of, like, they're my parents, and
How do you
these
f-
others are my birth parents.
How do you feel about them?
Oh, they're wonderful people.
I'm not asking your assessment. I'm asking your feelings. How do you feel about those two?
I think, all right, how about they're magical people? I think it's amazing that what they did as teenagers, giving me up was, took so much courage, and I can't imagine myself going through that. So,
You feel tenderness. You feel gratitude.
yeah, I do. I feel a lot of love, for sure.
I was wondering about that. You do feel love.
I do.
When did that start? When did you start to love them?
Well, it definitely probably started before we ever said anything. Just because I always had this, the whole reason that I was calling in the first place was just to say thanks. I'm glad that you did this. I have a great life. You don't have to worry, and I understand what happened. I understand you were young. So there was always an appreciation. And, that turned to love once I met them, and they were just awesome people, and, like, I couldn't see it any other way at this point.
Maxine, this, to use Alex's word, the story is amazing. But not all these stories are amazing. You met your biological mother. What happened there?
Well, when I first met her, it was like a honeymoon thing. It was like nice to know who it was that gave birth to me. She seemed happy to see me. At first, she kind of said it wasn't her, but then she called me and said, well, your search is over. I am your birth mother. And that lasted for about a year. And I met her children. She had 2 other children. But after a while, after a year or 2, I found that really I had nothing in common with her, and that she really hadn't been such a great mother to her children. And I'm still very, in touch with my birth sister and brother, but I realized how very lucky I was, because I had wonderful adoptive parents, and how lucky I was that I had them, and that, I was so glad that I was placed for adoption. It was a similar situation. She was very young. She was actually an immigrant, so she really could not keep a child, being unwed. And
So it sounds like despite your disappointment, you don't have regrets about what you've done.
I don't have regrets at all. And before I started the agency, I worked for a public agency, and I did a lot of search and reunions. And I found all kinds of things. I even remember a young man who found his birth mother was in a mental institute, and she'd been in a mental institute for like 30 years, so she was really bad. And he said he was still glad that he had looked for her and found her and resolved this. And we've also, at Adoptions from the Heart, we've even had things where, unfortunately, we've had sad stories, birth parents that died, children that have died, and at least to call the birth parents and tell them what happened, or to, the opposite. I mean, I really think people need to know what's happening so they don't wonder their whole life. I wonder what happened to this child. I wonder what happened to my parents. Are they still alive? Do they care about me? So I think there's a lot to be said for communication.
Before we close, I have a personal question. the lady in the front row asked about age for adoption. And, well, my personal question is this. My parents are no longer living. Is 62 too old to be adopted?
Maybe we can see what we can do
I'm
for
just
you.
wondering.
Yes.
I'm just,
We'll have to evaluate your case and see.
now I'm
you
a
look like
case.
a good boy.
Pardon?
You look like a good boy.
I am a good boy. Well, sometimes. I want to thank all three of you so much for joining us. Maxine Chalker is founder and president of Adoptions from the Heart. Gloria Hockman is director of communication at the National Adoption Center. Alex, thank you for so much for making this alive and making it available and accessible to all of us. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.